Today we're going to install the Madjax front seat cover designed for the E-Z-GO TXT and RXV. To do this, we're going to use safety glasses, a staple puller, a razor knife, cleaning solution, 3/8 by 20 gauge staples, and a long-nosed pneumatic upholstery staple gun. Now let's get started. To make this install easier, we recommend taking the covers out of the bag and putting them in a clothes dryer for 5 to 10 minutes. This will help take out all the wrinkles and make it easier to wrap. If you don't have a dryer, you can set them out in the sun. We're going to begin on the front seat lean back. What I want you to do is flip it over and remove the 4 screws with a T25 Torx bit. Retain the hardware. Now we're going to take our front seat cover and lay it down flat, face down on our table. You'll notice that the top of the cover has stitching. We're going to take our cushion and lay it inside of the cover with the top of the cushion matching the top of the stitching here. You want to make sure that you have equal amounts of vinyl overhanging each 4 corners. If you don't have this, you may pull too far on one side of the cover. We're going to start on the bottom side corner. We're going to place 1 staple here just to hold it. Be sure to wear safety glasses. Don't worry about covering up the holes. We'll come back and trim the vinyl out later. Now we're going to come to the opposite corner and do the same thing, but this time we're going to use the stitching along the shoulder to gauge how far we're going to pull this cover around. Now we're going to move to the next corner. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to pull the cover over so that the stitching is equal with the shoulder. And then finally, we're going to attach the last corner. The reason we alternate corners is to keep the cover from twisting. We may come back later and remove these if needed to align the corners up better. Moving to the bottom of the cover, you'll notice 2 seams. We're going to take these seams and pull these tight and attach them with staples. You want to make sure that the seams are equally spread out across the bottom and that one side is not pulled too far to the other. You want to pull this over and tack a staple right on top of the seam like this. Again, we'll come back later and cut our vinyl out around our mounting holes. Moving to the top, we're going to do the same thing we did on the bottom, but we're going to pull on each shoulder here of the cushion using the seam as a guide of how far we need to pull the cover. We're only going to put a few staples here for now. We'll come back later and finish this up. So at this point, you can see that our seam is following the shoulder of our cushion really well. If you have a part that's dipping too low or that's not pulled tight enough, simply pull that staple out and pull the vinyl in some more and reattach. Now we're going to move back to the bottom and do the center. You want to pull this fabric enough to match the 2 sides here. So we're going to pull the center fabric over so we're equally spaced on the sides. I'm going to put a few staples there in the middle and then finish out each side of the seams. As you can see, we have the bottom of the seat cover fully attached. I usually like to space out my staples 1/4 to 1/2 inch apart. Now we're going to move to the top corners and secure those as well. As you're moving around the top corner, you'll notice a roll starting to happen. What we're going to do when we get to the roll is you're going to pull from the center of the roll, which is going to create 2 smaller rolls. You're going to attach the center roll and then pull the other 2 out as needed. We're going to do the same thing on the other side, and we're going to use the seam as our guide again. If you notice that one side of your vinyl is pulled down lower than the other side, you may have a wave in your seam. Be sure to check on that. We're going to do the bottom corners next. At this point, we have our bottom completely secured, as well as our 2 shoulders of our seat cushion. Next, we're going to move to the center of the top and pull the middle first and secure the middle with 3 to 4 staples to hold the center. As you can see, we have no ripples here in our dip of the top of the cushion, and you cannot pull any fabric from the vinyl. If you can pull fabric from the vinyl, you need to pull the staples out and pull the bottom a little bit tighter. We can now secure each side of our top. Again, make sure that your seam is staying in place. Moving to the sides, before we secure the sides, I want to go ahead and make little incisions where our mounting holes are at. Once we do that, then we can secure the sides. What I've done here is I've taken a razor knife and I've made an X at every mounting hole location. So when we're securing the sides, we need to avoid the X's. So starting with the side, we're going to pull the center first, just like we did the top, and secure with 2 to 3 staples here. You want to use your seam on the shoulder of the cushion as a guide. You'll notice some roll. Again, pull from the center. This will create 2 smaller rolls. Pull those from the center as well. Once your side is secured, everywhere that you made an X at, you want to cut a small square of vinyl out so that your mounting hole is accessible. We're going to move to the other side and do the same thing. Once your vinyl is secured, you want to go back and check your seams to make sure everything is good and straight and you're happy with your work. Then you can take your seat back cover and place it on your cushion. Now we can clean our cover off and move to the bottom cushion. First thing we're going to do on the seat bottom is remove the hip restraints, the hinges, and the plastic trim. We're going to use a T45 Torx bit here and retain. Now we're going to remove our hinges with a number 3 Phillips tip. Using a staple puller, remove your trim. Before we get to our seat covers, I want to show you a few things that happens on the TXT and RXV seat cushions. For older seat cushions such as this one, if you look here at the corners, you'll notice that the foam has recessed from its original position. What we're going to do is cut the vinyl off of the seat cushion and take the cushion off. Once you have the vinyl cut free, we're going to pull the staples. Now that we have our foam removed, we're going to take a garment steamer and steam along the outside edges and then the middle to restore it. Now you're going to lay your wood bottom face down and take some spray glue and coat this side of the wood. Now we're going to take our foam and place it on top of our wood. Make sure to stretch it out so that it overhangs your wood on each side. You'll notice the dip in the foam matches the dip in the wood. Now you're going to press this down and wait for a few minutes. If you need to do the same thing on the lean back cushion, just repeat these same steps. Before we attach our seat cover, you're going to look at 2 points here. So on the end of the seat cover, you'll notice that one side is longer than the other. This is going to tell us which side is the front and which side is the back. We're going to use the shorter side and go towards the front of our cushion, which is the same side that has the dip. We're going to lay our cover flat on the table and put our cushion inside of it. So one thing you want to look for whenever you get your seat cushion in place is to make sure you have enough vinyl hanging over on each corner. We're going to start in the corner here and put us one staple to hold this side. You want to use the seam on the shoulder of the cushion here, just like we did on the front, as a guide. Again, we're going to go to the opposite corner. Now we can go to our opposite corner of this side and then finish up our last corner. Now that we have all 4 corners attached, you just want to recheck your seams and make sure you're happy with where your seam rolls out on your shoulders. If you're not happy, remove the staple, re-pull it, and reattach. Now, we're going to work on the back side and pull our seams. We want to do just like we did on the front side and make sure that our seams have the same amount of overlap and staple them. We're going to do the same thing on the front side. You may cover up your mounting holes for your hinges. We're going to cut those out later. If you want to mark them now, go ahead. Moving to the rear side, we're going to pull our fabric in the center and secure it with 2 to 3 staples. Again, you can see that we have an even amount of vinyl pulled on each side. Once we have the center secured, we can move to in between the center and the seams. Again, you want to keep the same amount of overhang. Moving back to the front, we're going to do the same thing we did on the rear and pull the center portion here and secure it with a few staples. One thing I want you to check is to make sure that you can't pinch any of the loose fabric here. If you're pinching fabric, you need to pull the staples out and pull it tighter. We're now going to work on the center. Moving on to the gaps. Now that we have our front and our rear attached, we can move to the corners here. Just like we did on the front, if you have any roll, pull from the roll first and secure. You want to double check, make sure your seam is where you want it, and then pull out the smaller rolls. When you pull the rolls, if they fold over, it's okay, just shoot the roll where it folds at. At this point, we have all 4 corners attached, as well as our front and our rear. Now we're ready to move on to the sides. We're going to do the same thing here and pull from the middle first and secure with 3 staples in the middle. You'll notice on these sides you have a dip as well. What I always do is pull from the edge of the side like this, shoot some staples, do the same thing on the other side, and then I come and fill the gaps. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Now that we have all 4 sides attached, we're going to come back to our mounting holes and cut out the vinyl. At this point, you want to recheck your seams to make sure you're happy with your work. Once that's done, you want to reattach your plastic trim. Your hip restraints and your hinges, and then give it a good cleaning, and then you can reattach it to your cart.